beautiful gamers, how you guys doing today? I decided to bring a guide to the Smite community, and this is targeted specifically towards people who have never played Smite before or tried Smite but then it was too confusing for them or too hard, and then they decided they just didn't want to stick with it and they just went on to play other things. This is a guide for these people. So if you are a seasoned player, you've been playing Smite, then this guide isn't for you. Some of the stuff in this guide may seem like it's common sense, but believe it or not, you'd be really surprised because when you're used to playing the game, you don't really realize what's difficult for other people and new people because it becomes second nature to you. So this is why I decided to make this guide, because when I first started playing Smite, I was really confused. I was in the shoes of the new people, so I understand exactly what they feel or what they're going through. And I try to bring new people into Smite, but I always hear the same thing about they tried it, they didn't like it because it was too confusing. Then I try to bring them back into it and help them out, and you know, some stick to it and some don't, but this is to make things feel familiar and to make things a bit easier. That's the purpose of this guide. Maybe it'll help new people stay in the game and continue it. Well, that's the goal anyway, so let's get to it. Now, this right here is the main menu. This is where all the juice is. And I want to point out something in the bottom right. When you press your options button, it'll take you where you see where it says quests, reward center, friends list. You can take a look at all of those. But this right here is the learn tab, and you can check that out. It doesn't really teach everything there is to know. I mean, it teaches a lot, but there are certain things that you learn just through experience and playing the game. But this can give you like an overall view of things. So there's videos to show you the game modes, tutorials, the glossary. If you hear people talking and you don't know what that means, you can look at that. The VGS is a way to communicate with your team in game, things you might want to say. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. But what I want to look at is, let's go to the guides tab real quick. This is where you can find all the guides. But what I want to talk about is the 5 classes and give a brief explanation to what these classes do. And it's just a general description of them, because there's exceptions to the rules sometimes. Things change sometimes. There's outliers. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to give a general description for the new player coming in. So first and foremost, Smite has 2 forms of damage: physical damage and magical damage. The assassin deals physical damage. The way that I would describe an assassin is they are glass cannons, and since they are typically not ranged characters, they don't really have many ranged abilities, generally speaking. So they have to be in your face to deal damage. But when they are in your face, when they have you, they deal massive damage. And you want to target mostly other characters that are squishy like you. You really don't want to go after tankier targets, but you can if the opportunity is there to. So the thing about an assassin is, since you have to be so close, it's dangerous getting in sometimes. So your job is to look for opportunities to get in and get out. That should be your mindset when playing an assassin. How can I get in, deal some massive damage, and get out? How can I get in and surprise this enemy real quick, kill him, and get out? I also describe them as a cleanup crew. Your team might have dealt massive damage, and there may be some enemies trying to escape the damage. They might be out of position, panicking, trying to run away because they're about to die. That's your opportunity to get in, kill them real quick, clean up. Just basically clean up the enemies trying to run away. So it's kind of like what the name suggests. Assassin. You assassinate things. That's what you do. You look for opportunities to assassinate people, and you kind of look for opportunities to get in and get out. Look for people out of position. Look for people not paying attention. You basically just have to catch people slipping, and then you punish them for it. So the next class is the Guardian class. They deal magical damage. They're more of the tank. They're what their name suggests, the Guardians. They guard the team. Your job is to set up kills for your team, mitigate damage for your team, and just overall CC the enemies. And what I mean by CC is crowd control. Guardians have a lot of crowd control in their kit. So they have a crowd control is things like stuns, knockups, freeze, silence. Silence is when you can't use your abilities, pulls, grabs. All those things are forms of CC. Being rooted in place, that's a form of CC. And Guardians, they thrive in that area. They don't deal as much damage as the other classes, but they have very high survivability. And that's one thing that you should pay attention to. And they're like the front line. Their job is to be the front line. They're the initiator. They initiate the fight. It's your team's job to back up your initiations, to be there to capitalize on all of your setups. And they mitigate damage. So they just basically be there to soak up the damage. But you have to back your Guardian up as well. You can't just have your Guardian out there taking damage and you're not backing him up. But that's just the Guardian's job. That's their main role. And then you have the Hunter class. They deal physical damage. They're more ranged. So they're like the Assassin, only they don't have to be up close in your face. They can deal damage from safe distances. So they start off fairly weak in the beginning of the match, but as the match progresses, they become the powerhouse of the team. They are the main DPS of the team. They deal damage per second. And once they get to that point, they burn objectives. So certain game modes have objectives where you have to take towers down. The Hunters thrive in that area. And they also take down Guardians really well too. Tanky characters. They're really good at doing that. So the thing is, you can deal damage from a safe spot. So it's best to pay attention to your position when you're dealing damage. Try not to get out of position, because once you do that, you leave an opening for your assassin to take advantage of that, or the enemy assassin to take advantage of that. So try to just think about where the enemies are, pay attention, because you are squishy as a hunter. You can get burst down and killed pretty easily for the most part, but you're going to be targeted mostly too, simply because you are the powerhouse. So of course you're the biggest threat, or one of the biggest threats to the team. So that's how it's supposed to be anyway. And so that's basically a general description of the hunter and what they do. The mages are similar to the hunters. They deal magical damage, but they're mostly bursty. Instead of consistent DPS like the hunters, mages deal huge bursts of damage. So they're also safe, because majority of the mages, they are ranged characters. There are exceptions though, and there are some mages that are more DPS than they are bursty. Like I said, there's variables here, but for the most part, compared to the hunter, they're more into the bursty type of damage, and you are supposed to burst down the enemies, just be there, just getting that damage out there, and that's your main job from a safe distance. Also, just like the hunter, don't get caught out of position, because you will get punished for it. So those are things to keep in mind with the mages. Certain mages can heal as well. Certain mages are more utility based, so they thrive mostly in the healing department. So Aphrodite is an example of that. Her kit is mostly focused around healing and utility for the most part. Then there's the warriors. Warriors, I describe them as hybrid between assassin and guardian, but they deal physical damage. They're really well balanced. They have a good amount of damage and a good amount of health. Balanced amount of damage, balanced amount of survivability, I meant. They don't have as much survivability as the guardian, but they have more than the assassin, hunter, and the mage. They don't deal as much damage than the assassin, hunter, and mage, but they deal more than the guardian. So they're just overall balanced. And the way I would describe them is they're mostly in the back line, but they can be in the front line with the guardians too. They can also initiate fights as well, like the guardians. But the difference here is your job is to kind of be a bully, be annoying to the enemy team, disrupt the enemy team. And that's kind of like how I would describe them. You bully, you disrupt, you annoy them, you harass them. That's kind of like what you do, get on their nerves. See, with the warrior, you get in their face, you deal damage, because most of them are also, they also have to be up close to deal damage, like the assassin. A lot of them don't have many ranged abilities like the mage and the hunter, but that's the point. You have to be in their face, getting on people's nerves. So with that, that'll make people get out of position. If you're in the enemy phase, being annoying, then they'll get out of position. That gives your assassin the opportunity to come in and catch you slipping. Then, the hunter focus you, burst you, the mage bursts you down. So those are the things that the warrior, I would describe them as doing. Bully, you have to be the bully. Just be a bully. Now, what you want to do, most of the game modes are 5v5, but there are exceptions. Some of them are 3v3, 1v1, 4v4. But what you want is a balanced team. That's what you want ideally. So I would say when it's a 5v5, you want one of each. You at least want one of each class. But, if you want to have a little fun and you want to just pick whatever you want, that's fine too. But just to let you know, if the enemy team has a more balanced team than yours, it's a high possibility that you're going to lose. I mean, it's not impossible to win, but it's just you lower the odds when the enemy team is more balanced than you. So just keep that in mind. Of course, in 1v1s, then, that's different. But as far as teams, no matter if it's a 3v3, 5v5, 4v4, just try to make sure the team is balanced in some way. Make sure you have an initiator, make sure you have a damage dealer, that type of thing. So this is the character selection screen. This is where you're going to be when you select a character before a match. And when you press RB and LB at the top, you can see which classes are accounted for, because it'll be crossed out. A character will be crossed out in that category. So in case you're not familiar with all the characters and what they do, if you want to make sure that your team is well rounded, if you care about that, you can go ahead, press RB and scroll through the filters to see which class is missing something. And one thing I want to do is press the options button and go to auto buy skill. Make sure it's turned on. Normally I would say don't do that, because the best way to learn how to play is to keep those off so you can purchase and level up your abilities on your own. But if you're a new player, you might just want to play and not even think about those things. Most new players don't think about that. So just turn it on for the time being, just for the sake of the new player coming in and for the sake of people who've tried it and it was too hard for them.
Spring has sprung. A very important job, and that is making sure the flora blooms for the new year.
Alright, so this right here is jungle practice. This is just where I'm going to go to show you some things real quick. So press your options button, and this part is for people who play on console. Go down, after you press options, go down to settings. Scroll over to controls. Make sure your controller layout says Savage. And the reason why I say that is because there's two advantages to playing Savage controls. One, your abilities are at the top of your controller. So for Xbox, that's LT, LB, RB, RT. For PlayStations, that is L1, L2, R1, R2. And for the Switch, that's R, RZ, L, and LZ. Anyways, your abilities are those buttons. And what the advantage of that is, you can continue to move around while casting your abilities. And another advantage is because most games on console use this layout. So Overwatch, Paladins, Apex Legends, any type of game where, for the most part, majority of the popular games or the known games that you most likely played before, they have their casting abilities are the top buttons. And the reason for that is because you can continue moving while casting your abilities. When I first started playing Smite, the default control layout was some weird shit where the buttons were, or the abilities were the front buttons. So for Xbox that was X, Y, B, A, and for the PlayStation that was X, square, circle, and triangle. And the problem with that is when you cast your abilities, you have to take your right thumb off the right joystick. So that means you have to cease movement for a short period of time just to cast your abilities. And it may seem like it's not a big deal, but it really is a big deal when you're in battle. People think, well, oh, it's only for a couple seconds. Well, a couple seconds matters in a match. So you want to be able to move around while casting your abilities, because when I was playing on because when I first started playing Smite, I played them on the default controls, and it was so weird because I would just be, the way I would be moving around, I would be like stopping and going, and it would just be, it's just really awkward. And it's just way better when you have it this way, and then later down the line is more optimal. In most games, your ultimate ability is cast with the Y button on Xbox and the triangle button on the PlayStation and the X button on the Switch. So Overwatch, your ultimate ability is Y. Paladins, your ultimate ability is Y. Apex Legends is the top buttons, but still, that's casting your abilities, like I said, the top buttons. So for the most part, when you put your controller at this layout, it should be an easy transition playing Smite because you're already familiar, most likely, with the controller setup from other games. So you don't have to relearn a whole new controller scheme just to play the game. So another thing too, when you scroll down, you can adjust your sensitivity. So pick whatever's comfortable for you. And then I guess mine's is kind of low. I don't know, but that's what's comfortable for me. And then scroll over to targeting. For the distance line, I would recommend the ruler, and the reticle, I would recommend the X. But, you know, that part is up to you and whichever is more comfortable for you. If you look, you'll see like a 30, a 55, and a 70. That's the ruler. And at the tip of that, that's your reticle. That's the X. So you can make the reticle, or you can make the targeter instead of the ruler. You can have it just as a line without the numbers, or you could just have no targeter at all. If it distracts you or something and you just don't like it, you can turn it off. Or you can have it as a circle or no reticle at all, but I wouldn't recommend that because the reticle kind of helps you aim a little bit. In most shooting games have reticles, so you may be used to seeing one anyway. So that's a controller layout that I recommend just to keep things feeling similar or familiar or something. At least that's the goal here. Now we're gonna look at the screen, because when I try to get people to play Smite, I'll be describing things on the screen and they don't really know what I'm talking about. So the bottom right, where those squares are glowing and then you see LT, LB, RB, and Y, those are your abilities. And those are the buttons you press to use your abilities. The buttons at the bottom is what you can press to level the ability up. But since you put it on auto level, you don't have to worry about that. Now, when you notice you have access to an ability, you will see a blue square underneath the picture. That lets you know that that ability is available to use. Each game mode, you'll start off at a certain level. So some game modes you start off at level 1, some you start off at 3, some you start off at 5. So you can see what level you are at the top left. That picture with the number 1 underneath, that's what level. So I'm level 1. That's why you only see 1 point, one little blue square into one of my abilities, because you have to level up your abilities as they go. Once you get to level 5, that's when your ultimate is unlocked. Now I'm gonna go ahead and max level myself. 20 is the max level in every game mode. So whatever character you choose to pick, press options. You can read their abilities like that. Just read the abilities. Press options, scroll down to abilities, read them, and see what they do. For the most part, every character has 4 abilities. So they have a 1, a 2, A 3 and a 4 is the ultimate ability. So when you're talking to people and they say use your 1 or your 2, that's how you know, because it goes in order. 1, 2, 3, 4. This right here is a passive. Every character has a passive. Read what that passive is, because it can give you an advantage, at least having knowledge of what it does. And what makes it a passive is that you don't need to press a button in order for it to go. It's like a thing that just happens naturally. So just read it and see what that is, because every character has one, and it's good to know what it is. So now you see underneath the pictures of all of my abilities, there's 5 blue squares. That's what it's going to look like at level 20. You're going to have, that means all of your abilities are at max level. And as long as there's 1 blue point in it, then that means you can use that ability. So when you get more into the game, if you decide that you like the game, then you can turn off auto level and start leveling up your abilities yourself. You just have to remember to do it. A lot of new players come in and they forget to level their abilities up when it's not set on auto level. Now I want to show you I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that. So let me level myself up real quick. Where is it? Oh. Now another thing I want to show you is the casting. Put the casting on something familiar to you. So I'm going to show you how to cast your abilities. I'm going to show you what they are. I'm on quick casting. So go to controls, press start or options, go down to settings, go down to controls, go to cast mode and switch it to, that's how you switch it to a casting that's comfortable for you. But first I want to show you what each of them does. So normal casting, we're going to start with the first ability. When I press LT, that'll be L1 for PlayStation and L for the Switch. Press it once and as you can see a target pops up, right? Then you can aim, you can move around. Then when you press it again, that's when it activates. So normal casting is activating your ability, but you have to press the button twice in order for the ability to cast. So press it once, boom, you can move around, you can aim, whatever. Press it again, activate. Now, switching it to quick casting, that's what I use. That's what's comfortable for me, but you put on whatever's comfortable for you. Quick casting is when you press the button, but don't let the button go. So I press LT, which is one of my abilities, and I can aim as long as I'm still holding the button down. I can move around, I can aim, and it won't cast, but as soon as I let the button go, it'll cast the ability. That is quick casting. You hold the button down, aim, then let go, instead of pressing it twice like the normal casting. Next is instant casting, and I don't personally use that because with instant casting you don't have that targeter that pops up that'll help you aim. So what you have to rely on is your ruler and your reticle. Make sure it's in the proper space, and then that's where the ability is going to go, because as soon as you press the button, it's going to cast, so you won't have that opportunity to aim. So the goal is to aim before you press the button, which is pretty much how it is in Overwatch and other games. So like I said, if that works better for you, then go ahead and do it that way. For me, it is quick casting, like I said. But here's a cool thing. If you press options, go down to abilities, you can manually set each individual ability to a specific casting. So let's say your comfortable casting is quick casting. So that'll be your default. So that's what you have it on in your controls, is quick casting. But you can change each ability. Like maybe an ability works better for you in normal casting and one ability works better for you in instant casting. You can do that. So where you see it says cast mode, use default Y, it'll say something different depending on what system you use. And then you can switch it to normal casting, you can switch it to quick casting, or you can switch it to instant casting, or you can put it on default. You can do that for each individual ability and you can customize that to each guide. Whichever guide you're using, whichever works best for you. I find that certain guides using normal casting on certain abilities works better for me than my default quick casting. And certain guides are automatically on auto or instant cast because that's just how that ability works. You just press it and it instantly casts. So those are things to also keep in mind as well. One thing I forgot to mention too is that your basic attacks are your right trigger on Xbox, R2 on PlayStation, and RZ on the Switch. It's the same button in almost every single shooting game on console. So, right, that is your basic. See? Boom. Like I said, some characters are ranged, and some characters you gotta be in their faces to deal damage. I know I had mentioned that earlier. Yep. So that's how you cast your basic attack. Okay, I'm missing it and shit. But yep, it's the same. And that part should be really familiar. So when your abilities are down, or let's say they're all on cooldown, and you know the only thing left is to do basic attacks, you can do basic attacks in between your abilities, and you can do cancellations, animation cancels too, if you can get your basic attacks in between and optimizing the amount of damage you do. So that's another thing to point out. Underneath your level, where it shows where your level is, there's a long rectangle. That's where your items are going to be. And since you have it on auto buy, it's going to be automatically buy your items. Now, in order to get into the item store, you press left on the D-pad, and then it opens up the store. The left side is where you can scroll around and look at the items, and then the right shows you the item tree, and it shows you what that specific item does. You can read them if you want to. I mean, since you're on auto buy, you won't really have to worry about this too much. But if you really want to get into the game, there will come a point in time where you have to learn the items and which items work best for which characters. That comes over time, and that comes over playing. But the thing is, with auto buy, you won't learn that because you won't be looking at the items. That's why I always say at least look at them and read them, so get familiar with them. Get familiar with what they are automatically buying for you. Now, what it's going to look like is you're going to see your items pop up on that bar on the left. So I'm just going to go ahead and purchase items. You just press select on the item, and you press select again to buy it. The little green numbers next to it shows how much each item costs, and I'll go over that too. The gold. Now, at the bottom left, that number that's constantly going up underneath those squares, that's your gold. At the top, the two sides where you see a 0 and a 0, the blue side is your team, the red side is the enemy team. That shows how much overall gold your team has and how much overall gold the enemy team has. It's good to know that, because if the enemy team has more gold than you, then it's more than likely that they have more items than you, and when they have more items, they have more of an advantage to win. Now, one thing I want to mention about auto buy is that the items will not buy unless you are in the fountain. The fountain is an area where you're going to be at the beginning of each match. This right here is jungle practice, and this is the fountain for jungle practice. Oh, and by the way, you pressing down on the right joystick. It doesn't give you any type of movement advantage. It's really just cosmetic purposes, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna go in here, right? And then once you're in battle, then the items won't buy. But as soon as you die, you're gonna be respawned back at your base, and your items will automatically buy. Or if you're noticing you're accumulating a lot of gold in your bottom left, and you may have items that need to be picked up, you can press down on the D-pad, and then a recall animation will happen. Just do this in a safe space. Don't be doing it all out in the middle of danger, because you will get punished for it. They will attack you. So try to do that in a safe space. And you see how it brought me back to the fountain. And then once you do that, your items will automatically buy. Try not to be in the fountain too much though. Only go in there when you notice you've accumulated a lot of gold, but try to be with your team. Like, don't be leaving your team to 4v5 because you want to spend too much time in the base. That happens often. And underneath you is your health bar and your mana bar. Every time you use an ability, it uses your mana, which is the blue bar. So an example of that, go out here. See, I use an ability, I use a mana, and now it went down a little bit. So mages tend to be mana hungry. Some characters are really mana hungry. So try to keep in mind that blue bar, because once it gets low, you won't be able to use your abilities. Also, too, abilities have cooldowns, just like most games where characters have abilities. You have to wait for the ability to come back up before you can use it again. Okay, so one thing I want to point out is in the bottom left is where your relics will be. Your relics is what I like to call clutch items. And I know since it's on auto buy, it's going to automatically buy you relics. But the two relics that I really want you to focus on as a new player for the time being until you decide you want to get into the game, but I really just would recommend that you get into the habit of at least get familiar with these two relics. And that, my friends, are purification beads and then the Aegis amulet. I'm going to explain what they do and I'm going to demonstrate what they do. The beads makes you immune to all forms of crowd control. And remember, I told you the crowd controls are anything as far as cripples, freezes, stuns, and all of that stuff. If you pop that bead, you can instantly get out of those situations and get the hell out of there. Same thing with the Aegis. It makes you immune to damage for 1.5 seconds, but you can't use your abilities and you can't take any healing either. But the point of it is to get out clutch, or it helps you to escape from dying in a clutch situation. So I'm not sure what Smite will automatically buy you or purchase you, but as soon as you get into the game, it's going to automatically buy you your first relic. Then when you hit level 12, it's going to automatically buy your second relic whenever you die or whenever you get back into the fountain, whether you recall or just go back there. It's going to automatically buy your second relic. The thing is, if you leave out of the fountain, then you're going to be stuck in whatever relic they give you. So that's why I kind of want to point this out, that you sell whatever relic they give you and make sure it is the bead or the Aegis, especially if you are a hunter, assassin, or a mage. These relics are very important for those two, and it will really help you to survive out here in these team fights. And also too, I know, like, when I first started playing the game, my friends would always tell me to get a relic called meditation. But the issue with that relic is that it's only good in the early game. But once you hit the mid game to the late game, it's really useless. And all you really are is just a walking target. So you don't want to be a target. I know when I was getting into the game, I would get a lot of kills, but I would also die a lot. But that's because I would have meditation. There would be no way for me to get out of those cripples and those stuns and to get out of it in a clutch situation. Or when I see an ultimate coming my way and I know I'm about to die but I'm trying to run away, I can't pop the Aegis to survive it or something like that. So I definitely, once I started to pick up other relics and learn what other relics do, I started to survive more. I started to die less, and that's the whole point. I want you to get these relics so you won't die as much. Also, I don't want you to be a walking target because I know that people focus people who have meditation. So, and I know that's like a really, really popular item with new players. And I know it was because at first Smite would automatically buy you meditation. And then I think another reason is because a lot of people just thought it was good. So, especially people who don't really know how to play the game well, or they're new at the game or something, they just really feel like it's a good item, and that's understandable. But I just need you to know that there are better relics out there. So go ahead and get the beads. Now before you hit level 12, the other relic where you see underneath the X button, for me, that is a ward. A ward gives you vision on the map, so where you wouldn't be able to see over the wall, through the wall, you will be able to see through that wall when you put down a ward, or not even just through a wall. Just you will be able to see where the enemies are on the map. Now, some game modes you don't really need to ward, like arena, but still do it anyway, so you can get in the habit of doing so. So like this is what it would look like. I will press X, boom, there is the ward right there, and it'll give you vision in a surrounding area on the map. Now you see it's on a cooldown, so you can't just spam it, but I just wanted to point that out, that before you hit level 12, that's going to be in the place of your second relic slot. But once you hit level 12, it's going to, you know, boom, let me reset that. So once you hit level 12, it's going to put another relic there. Now I want to get these. So this is what it should look like. Your relics should look like that. It don't have to be in that order. It could be flipped around, where the yellow one, which is the Aegis, is first and the bead is second. But just make sure it's those two relics. I would recommend the bead first though. So let's say those relics weren't there and they instead got you something else. Let's say Smite bought you that and then bought you some other shit like well, whatever. Let's say it bought you that. And then what you can do is, as soon as you spawn in and say it gives you that in your first relic slot, what you can do is press left on the D-pad to open up the store, scroll over to that relic and sell it. The button that you use to sell it, it shows up on the bottom right, and for me it's the X button. So I sell it, then I press select on that square, and then I go down to the bead and I buy the bead. So there you go, that's the bead. And then the thing is, you have to do it as soon as you spawn into the game. Don't leave out of the fountain, or else you're going to be stuck with whatever relic they give you, like I said before. And then once you hit level 12 and then you get back to the fountain somehow, then it's going to automatically purchase your second relic. What you do is, like I said, open it up, sell whatever they give you, and then get the Aegis this time. So there you go, beads and Aegis. And now let me show you the benefits of the two and how they help you survive in game and how they're really, really useful. Like I said, the bead cleanses you from crowd control, so I'm going to hit him, he's going to freeze me, and let me level up my shit. Alright, so boom. Got out immediately. Ooh, I didn't mean to die that way, my bad. But yeah, got out that immediately, and he wasn't able to do much to me. Now, this is what would have happened if I didn't press it. And by the way, it is on a high cooldown. As you can see, it's counting down from 145. And that means that you can't just continually use it, which makes sense because that would be pretty broken. And yeah, that would be pretty damn broken. Now, this is what would happen if I didn't use it. Now he can just keep hitting me, and then now, whatever, I took unnecessary damage that I didn't need to take. The first time I just got out of it immediately, the second time I was just stuck in it and he was just hitting me. Now, if that was a full team and I was just sitting there frozen like that, they would have all collapsed on me and killed me. Now, I'm going to show you the usefulness of the second relic. The second relic helps you not take damage, so I'm going to hit her. She's going to be hitting me, see, boom, she's hitting me. But let's say I have all my abilities on cooldown, I need to get out of there. I can pop this, now I'm not taking damage, it's immune. I get out, now that it's back off cooldown, boom, I escape. So it's really helpful, and it's way better than meditation, because meditation doesn't really help you get out of the really dangerous situations. It just puts a target on your back, to be honest. But, yep, I kind of just wanted to talk about those relics, and remember, make sure your bottom left looks like that. And even if it's not in that order and it's flipped around, just make sure it looks like that. Doesn't matter. Now, when it comes to Guardians and Warriors, things change with the relics that you get. But I just don't want to make things as confusing. I don't want to overload your brain with too much information. But focus on those, because right now those are the two most important relics, especially for squishies. Now, if you decide you like the game and then you want to continue it, still read up on what the other relics do, so you can know what's good for you and what's not. But just don't buy meditation unless you want to die a lot and unless you want to be a target. So go into jungle practice and just mix and match. Put the controller style on Savage and change your casting to whatever is comfortable for you. And then I recommend the ruler and the reticle. And also don't forget about the relics in the bottom left. And also when you level up, your abilities will automatically level. And whenever you go back to the base or whenever you die, that's when your items are going to automatically buy. So just keep those things in mind. Alright, so for the last portion of this guide, one thing I want to point out is, let's say you get to a point where you like the game, you kind of understand it now, and things have been coming a bit easier, and you kind of want to transition into being able to have more control over you leveling up your abilities and more control over what items are being bought. Go back to the guides tab, pick a guide, and here is where you can read about the guide. You can see the difficulty, because each guide has a different difficulty. Some are easy, some are average, some are hard, and I think maybe one or two are very hard. You can look at the skins, the voice pack, the emotes. You can read the abilities here as well. You can see the stats. You can see the achievements and the trophies. You can read the lore. You can see your usage history. I obviously have never used this one. And right here is the ability builder. That's one thing I wanted to point out. So let's say you want to have more control over over building your abilities or leveling your abilities, but you don't often, you keep forgetting to level them up, because I see this happening all the time with new players. You still forget to level up your abilities, but you want more control over your level up. You've been playing it for a while and you decided you like it and you want to stick to it. Go to the ability builders and you can set, before the match starts, you can set how you want the abilities to level up and what order and that thing. Just remember, you can't get your ultimate until level 5. Just always remember that. So if you press 1, you can see you won't be able to press any points into this one because you can't get this one until it's level 5. It's in order: ability 1, ability 2, ability 3, ability 4, and then that's the passive. You don't need to put any points into that because passive is just automatic. And then, you know, level 2, you level your 2, level 3, you can level your 3, or you might want to have it something else. A level 1, you level 2, you might want to level your 2 again, and then your level 3. You know what I mean? Or your ability 3. So you can have more control over your leveling up when you go into the ability builder. Now the item builder is another thing. Here you can see the stats at level 20, what the stats would be at level 20, and then you can go ahead and look at the items and see what the items would do for you. And that's just another way you can go ahead and review the items. You can look at the relics here, read what they do, and this is how you can get familiar with the items. Now in this, you can put a custom build here, so that way when the game starts and you want to start building your own items, then you can have this on the front page. Then we have easier access to the items that you're looking for, so you don't have to scroll through the item shop looking for the item that you want. Because as a new player, I can understand how that'd be. I still do that too, and I've been playing the game for a little bit, so you know, this will help too. It'll help you to read and see what the items do. It can help you to see and compare the abilities and how the numbers change and all of that stuff. So I would recommend also going into that. That's if you decide, oh, I really like this game and I want to start learning. I just recommend you learn the items anyway, even if it's on auto level. Anyways, that wraps it up for the guide. I hope that it is helpful, and if it is, show your friends, and it'll just make things, I just wanted to make things a little easier. I mean, I hope that I accomplished that with this guide. I tried to keep it short, but it's okay. Trying to get to the point, but I kind of knew this guide was going to be pretty long, but it's definitely worth it if you're interested in this game. And also too, I do look for people to play with, and I do play with new people sometimes to try to help them and help them learn. So if you're looking for someone to play with, shoot me a comment in the bottom, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, and then we can see about arranging that. The game is crossplay. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a good one.